Hi, this is question one of the spring 2024 final. So our first question is, suppose the following code has been executed. We're assigned X to a list of three elements, and then Y to another list of three elements. And our next line is X dot append Y dot pop two. So we know we're going to be adding an element to X, and that element is going to be Y dot pop of two. It's very important to know how the top dot pop function works in this scenario. And dot pop function is going to be removing and returning the element at a specified index. And that specified index in this case would be the index of 2. So we're going to be going to our list of Y and popping the second element, which is 6, and appending that to X. So X will now equal to this right here. And then our next line says X dot remove 3. And the way that the dot remove function is different from dot pop is it removes the first occurrence of the value specified, not using the index, but rather the value itself mentioned within the parentheses. So that would mean that we're moving 3 from the list of X, and hence the value of X would just be this right here. Cool. Let's go to the next question. Suppose the following code has been executed. Over here, we're assigning X to a new empty list. And then going on to the next line, we have X is this empty list, and we're given a note that this returns false. And that is because of what the is operator does is it checks for object identity rather than the value itself of the object. And this right here is going to be creating a new list in the memory, while X refers to a solely different list object. Hence, this is going to output false. Going on to the next line, Y equals X. This is just assigning Y to refer to the same list object as X. So we know X and Y are assigned to the same empty list. And then it says Y dot append 88. And so that would mean that we're going to Y, which is this list right here, and we're going to add 88 to it. So it would be this right here. And this is going to be our new list. And now the question asks us, which of the following return true? Let's go through these options one by one, now that we know what the code is doing. So it says X is Y, and the way that we can check this out is what is does is checks whether two variables refer to the same object in memory. And we know that X and Y are assigned to the same list, but we can also check that they're assigned to the same object in memory, which is this list right here. Hence, we know this would output true. Now, the next question asks us, why is list 88? And the is function, like I said before, checks whether we're referring to the same object in memory. And this is kind of similar to this line right here. But why is 88? 88, this right here, would be creating a new list in memory. And Y is not the same object as that because Y is referring to this object right here. And hence Y is 88 would output false. Even though Y contains 88, it is not the same object as a list 88. So this is going to be false. And then our next choice is X equals to Y. And now this is where we have to pay attention to what the equal sign does, is kind of opposite of the is operator. We're more now checking in if the values are the same. And we know X and Y are the same, one, because they also refer back to the same list, but also because the values of both of these lists are going to match regardless since they're pointing towards the same list right here. And it might be a little tricky because we called y dot append here, but not x dot append. But it's important to note that in our line right here, when we're assigning y to and x to the same object, changing or altering y will also change our variable x since they're referring to the same list. And hence we can say x equals to y is true. And then our last option is x equals to an empty list. And kind of similar to our last option or the option before this, we know that this is going to output false because as we just went over, x equals to empty list is not true since we already altered or appended 88 to our list. Okay, cool. And then now we'll be going to part C. Over here, we're given a cat class, and we're also given a kitten class, which inherits or is trying to inherit from the cat class, as we can see it's mentioned right here. And the question asks us, Sally wants to use inheritance to help her create the kitten class. Does the following code for kitten's init method correctly use inheritance? And the code is given right here. And it says def init self age and super.init age. So the very first thing we want to go do first check is we already know it's inheriting from cat since it's mentioned right here within these parentheses, but we also want to check if the parameters for this init method match the parameters for class init method. So going over here, we see that the init method over here has two more parameters apart from our self parameter. And over here, we only have one parameter here, which is age. So this implementation of inheritance is solely not going to work because we don't have the right amount of parameters needed for our init method to inherit from our cat class. And going over the options for this, we see that the one that best aligns with this would be no, the code will error because of missing argument. Okay, going to part D, now Sally wants to implement the meow method for the kitten class. Suppose that the kitten class no longer inherits from the cat class. Additionally, we want a kitten to both meow and mew when the meow method is called. Does the code below accomplish this? So we're not going to be inheriting from the cat class, so it will be very important for us to specify that we're calling upon the cat class within our method here. And we see that this code has cat.meow self. So that means it is referring back to our cat class right here and calling upon the method meow, which is right here. And let's go ahead and check what the parameter for this meow method within the cat class is. So this is going to be just self. Okay, cool. And going back, we see this is also self. So it does do a good job of calling upon the cat class and using the correct amount and types of parameters. So we know this is going to just print meow. Okay, so that accomplishes our first step. And now we also need to make sure it prints out mew. And that is accomplished by our second line, which literally says print mew. So that's good. We're getting the two inputs that are necessary. So let's go and see the options. No, the method does not get the kitten to both meow and mew. Well, we did get two outputs and both of them are meow and mew, so that would be wrong. Yes, this implementation of meow method works correctly. Yep, that is right. And just to double check, no, the code does not properly call the meow method from the cat class. That would be wrong since we are taking the right amount of parameters and we're also making sure to call upon the cat class. Okay, and our last question is E. It's a true or false question, and it says all branches of a tree are also themselves tree. They're all instances of the tree class. So this would be a conceptual question. And to further kind of break this down, we can go ahead and draw a tree, for example. So let's say I have this tree right here. Might not be the best. But it's somewhat there. Um, so this would be our starting node, and this is a branch right here, and so is this a branch right here. And if we remove the starting node and we only had this tree and we had this tree, or these two branches break up into their own trees, they would still be called themselves trees. And if we further go ahead and kind of follow down this rabbit hole, we can see that that kind of satisfies for almost every branch. Every branch that we see is themselves a tree. It is a starting node, and then it has branches coming off of it, and hence this would be true. Thank you.